So hi guys, welcome to another episode of Meet Sean O'Neill. Today I've got David McDermott. David's head of elite sport and athlete management at John Moores University, and I'm delighted to have him here. Hi David.
Hi Sean, thanks for having us on.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So we met a few weeks ago in person actually, and we had a plan for the next 3 to 6 months, didn't we?
Yes.
So this past few weeks have been a bit of a crazy week. What's been happening in your side of things with your athletes and with the university?
Yeah, we so where we met was when the likes of yourself, we get a lot of people who are looking to do some crazy physical and mental challenges, and I'm fortunate to work in a place that can support that and support you to do these types of challenges, which we can talk about a little bit later on, and then live to fight another day afterwards. But the work that I do at Liverpool John Moores University, as you said, head of elite sport and athlete management, and we are in, like lots of industries, in interesting times. Part of my role is to support elite athletes who are attending university. And the goal is to allow them to thrive and flourish within sport and academics, and then more importantly, to contribute to society after they finish their careers and after they finish their academics. What's really interesting from our side is, we talk a lot about character in sport and identity. And what's really interesting at the moment is, if you think about some of the elite athletes that we work with, they've trained all their lives for certain competitions, for certain world championships, for certain Olympic games. And obviously these things now are being derailed, they're making along the way. And we talk a lot about identity as a person, and I think a lot of this can be translated into businesses as well as athletes. So one day these athletes are a footballer or a high jumper, and then suddenly they're locked in their house. So what are they?
Do they feel that, have they taken this as an individual challenge, or have they seen that everyone's in it together?
There's been a real interesting flow. I think from the start when this happened, it was difficult because expectations and planning, and a lot of the athletes, they need to know what's happening in every day, in every session, and they periodize their life specifically, physically and mentally, to reach certain landmarks and milestones. So a lot of this now suddenly is the unknown. So this is an area where a lot of athletes are not used to it. So they're having to adapt. They're having to set different goals. Having to be more focused mentally fitness and develop along those ways. So I would say early on, there was a little bit of real confusion and anxiety. And then it's my job and my role with the lifestyle advisors, our strength and conditioning, our nutritionists, to link in with them, to know that they're not alone, to know that there is other athletes that are going to be going through these certain the same situations. So it is, it's really, really interesting times. Part of our role now is different. So we have to adapt, and we have to overcome as practitioners to let our athletes, making sure that they are mentally as strong as they can be. They're having things to work towards. They are physically still maintaining or progressing, and staying engaged. And we have certain frameworks which we work from, which I can talk a little bit further on down the line.
It's what I'm finding about the business world is there was a lot of people or a lot of staff that were used to a Monday to Friday, and even some of my staff. And I find now that people have to get used to having less structure, because on the Sunday that's just gone past, I couldn't get in contact with a few people in other businesses that I would work, not my team, other teams. And by the Monday, they replied to me again. And I had a bit of a I had a bit of a moment with myself where I was at my laptop saying, there is no fucking Monday. There is no Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday anymore. We're in the middle of turmoil. We're in the middle of uncertainty. And weekends were designed to have family time, to go and enjoy yourself, and me personally now, I find that every single day is the same. Obviously, you need a structure in your life and you need to have a bit of a release. But at the same time, have you found that with your athletes that there is no Monday to Friday, or the day off has to change, or mentally have they had to prepare in any other format, or are they able to stay to the same format they've always stayed to?
It's really interesting you saying that, because we had a group discussion the other day, and one of the athletes commented and said, "What day is it today?" So it is that kind of lost time. And I think for us, similar to business, we're focusing on the process and habits. So actually then try and affect the positive climate that these athletes are working in. So, good habits of getting up, making sure that they are doing their fitness, they are linking in with people, whether that be coaches, people that they trust. They are understanding what's happening in the world from news releases and other things, and how it affects them, but not being overwhelmed by that. So making sure that they have trusted channels of communication, so that those levels of anxiety are not rising. And then, so it's those good habits of physical and mental and well-being that we're trying to adopt in the process, rather than thinking about what the end goal is. And I think, think for yourself that's quite similar, whereby you're waking up on a Sunday and you're trying to now kick into habits and processes. Okay, I'm going to do some work, I'm going to do some physical activity, I'm going to speak to a loved one, someone I haven't spoke to for a while, I'm going to listen to some good music, then I'm going to go back to my work, and then I'm going to... So these are the habits that we're getting into, but for those habits, there isn't a Saturday or a Sunday. So for example, family life, my 7-year-old child, so I'm trying to homeschool. So we're trying to do what I can, but I tend to be doing that now every day. And I thought to myself actually yesterday, I haven't given really a day off. But while that sounds harsh, the reason being is we're probably only doing maybe 2 hours worth of quality work a day. So, and push her to do 4 maybe that she does in school, and then after Saturday, Sunday off. I'm trying to make it fun and upbeat for her, so it's just a little and often. And I think that's really the same with your work. We're trying to make it fun. We're trying to engage with people and do it each part of the day, rather than 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, than we might have traditionally done so.
Yeah, it's and what about I know you're big into coaching and the mental side of it anyway, but have you found that you've had to concentrate more time on keeping the motivation there and keeping their spirits high and like being that, deeply focusing on being their mentor as much as just advising them on their training schedules?
Yeah, I think with most athletes, when they are injured, for example, they have to really maximize the time to work on other things to compensate, so they're not totally out of the picture, or they're not developing physically or mentally. So one of the big pushes from our side is that we always talk about them being more than an athlete. So they're more than a fast runner. They're more than someone that can throw. So therefore then, if that's ever taken away from them, they have more going on in their life to mentally then be able to, other areas of their life. And that, through research, that also helps performance within this sport as well. Similar to business, you can be really good within your business and you can be a real talent, but sometimes that doesn't capture all the meaning in your life. So you have other things that are going on, actually makes you more of a well-rounded person to then support your performance and your talent. A framework that we work from in regards to life satisfaction, I'm a big believer in positive psychology. So positive psychology, one of the godfathers, Martin Seligman, he talks a lot about taking people who are, if we look at the scale, say from -5 to +5, he likes to take people from, say, +1 to +3. And the idea behind that is he has a framework in place. If we can move people to +3, when suddenly they are feeling stressed and anxiety and facing life's challenges, adversity, they may drop down 1 or 2, but then they're not in the minus when it's acute and some real issues. So PERMA stands for positive emotions. I'll try and run through this quite quick. For positive emotions, an example of this is being grateful. So what I get the athletes to do, write 3 things what went well that day and why. Real simple. After 6 months, science is telling us it's improving your positive emotions. And these things are addictive. It's not like fat loss or fads where we put our body through turmoil to try and look a certain way, and then we get there and then suddenly we stop. These are positive emotions that are behavioral and the positive. The second area is engagement. So this is flow. So this is being at one in the music. So something that you're talented at is understanding and being mindful of that. We find that obviously a lot in sport, where they are someone that is really talented. They get lost with time. They get lost with space. They're in one with the music. The third one is meaning. So have a meaning and purpose. So we start to think about meaning and purpose beyond ourselves. So how do we serve the world as well as ourselves? And this is really key. This is really important, whereby philanthropy, giving back, helping others. And then the third one is accomplishment. The last one, is accomplishment. Accomplishment is success. What do we deem as success? Whether it be business, whether it be sport. And this is a real understanding where I spoke at the start about the process. The process is really important. There's lots of studies that have gone on, for example, in America, where if you're looking at academic achievements, those that have higher levels of self-discipline and grit outperform by double the amount those that have just the high IQ. Ideally, we want both, and then we're good to go. But really, that PERMA model, it's about thinking and being mindful of what pursuit we are putting our happiness in. And it's really being mindful of that. And that's really that framework that we try and stick to. And it's science-backed, and it really does improve.
It's interesting how you mentioned that you just broke off slightly there, but you mentioned the philanthropy side, whether it's putting people's bins out or giving a bit back. And I've been dwelling a lot now on the community that I grew up in and the teachings that my parents and my grandparents taught me about how years ago there was a huge community spirit that helped so many people through the tough times when they hadn't got a lot. And there was always a key in the front door, and there was no matter how little people had, there was always a cup of tea, there was always a toast, or there was always something to give to people when they turned up at the door. Thankfully, I saw that, and it's been taught, which I repeat multiple times, and I'll repeat all my life. My grandparents, my parents have taught me the art of giving and the art of sharing. So for me, this is an incredibly comfortable time, and it gives me time to actually understand. But I've felt the community side of things. Another important part there that I found that is, would I rather be the expert in my field at the moment, or would I like to be the person that can monetize or deliver? I find now through the conversations that I'm having with people out there that are experts in what they do, they're really struggling on how to, monetize this situation or take advantage of it or be incredibly proactive. Where I find myself at the moment where I'm not an expert in anything, but I'm able to maneuver myself into a place where I am able to take advantage. Or your athletes, I guess they're the experts in their field, and it must be a challenge to get them to be able to maneuver themselves or tweak themselves or have the person like to be able to maneuver them to keep completely on the right track.
Yeah, I think I mentioned at the start about kind of being injured. So it's quite similar to that, where we try and instill a philosophy of maximizing other areas to work on different parts of your game or your physical as well as your mental, to be able to come out of this as a stronger person. Thing is as well, everyone's going through this, so we're all in the same boat. So it's not like other people are suddenly are thriving and flourishing in different areas. We are very we're all in the similar boat, especially from the athlete's point of view. In business, obviously, some are actually doing well within this environment, and then we have a lot of people that are struggling. And I think part of that philosophy is, how do we adapt? How do we start to then work on ourselves individually, and how do we then help other businesses, and as well as your own business, to then continue to thrive and flourish, so we do come out of this stronger. And I think what this has done is it's brought people together, even though there's social distancing that has been taking place. I actually have had more meetings and more group discussions with our athletes, and more discussions about life, and I found out so much more about them just through our general chats, which have been online. But actually, I felt a stronger connection. So there is opportunities, I think, to develop relationships. There's definitely things that we can be doing, but ultimately, it's given us an opportunity to work on ourselves mentally. And I think that's been really, really important for athletes as well as myself, to start to understand, if we start to strip away our job, strip away some of these other identities, what actually am I standing for? What is my character? And we work a lot on character strengths within our athletes. And there's a great website, it's called Values in Action. And what that does, you fill out a questionnaire, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It gives you what your strengths are. So all these character strengths that can be written down, from creativity, curiosity, judgment, all these different types, and they give you your strongest strength, top 5. And the idea behind that is, when we face challenges, how do we use our strengths to overcome our challenges? So if we are very curious as a personality, character strength, how can we use that curiosity to actually enhance our situation that we're in now? So we're working from a position of strength.
Absolutely. I find that there's some really good statistics on this, because we're living in the greatest time of human history. We've got the abundance of everything, but we also have the abundance of accepting amazing things as the norm. So what people do now is they have maybe dozens of amazing things happen to them on a daily or weekly basis. They take it, they accept it, but there's very little gratitude. One bad thing happens, and it takes them days or weeks or months to get over it, but they forgot about the amazing daily things that are happening that we take for granted. And as you said before, one of the things that I mentioned so many times is gratitude. I think for me, gratitude is probably one of the biggest building blocks in my foundation that keeps me moving. I know we've discussed this in person as well, that for me to wake up every morning and for me to continue, which I have always done, whether from when I was a teenager, when I started my first business, into the recession of 2008 that completely wiped me out, to rebuilding, to now hit this. My gratitude's always been the same. My work ethic to wake up every morning is the same. You know, I have everything around me. The world around me changes, but I've kind of I heard a great saying years ago: if you're born into a world and you don't fit into it, create your own world. And I found that my world is evolving and turning over at the same pace, no matter how the world around me is. Just at this moment in time, I feel like I'm what do I say, less advancing on a daily basis in my businesses. And what I'm doing is I'm becoming a bigger mentor. I'm spending half my day guiding, half my day teaching, half my day giving advice, and then the other half creating new avenues speaking to the experts that are struggling to find a way out of what they're doing, and I'm helping monetizing them.
And I think that then you've already started to capture a lot of that framework that we spoke about. First of all, is helping others. So by that mentoring, you're helping other people, but you're improving your own levels of optimism and gratitude and life satisfaction as well by doing that. And then you've got that creative flow, which we talk about engagement, where then you're looking for different avenues and you've got an opportunity to be creative as well. But this optimism and gratitude, a lot of it is how our mood is and what our thoughts are. So during these times, it's understanding where are these moods coming from and having time to yourself and understand where your thoughts are coming from and putting them in trial a little bit to understand, okay, what am I thinking? What is my mood and why is it like that? And sometimes accept that we are going to be having a little bit of down days here and there. You know, at the start, I said about the flow of expectation, of understanding when these things are changing so quick and understanding what we can control and not control. So there are all going to be levels of fear and of anxiety and being scared, but our reactions are key. We can be scared. We can be scared, but we don't have to be scary.
I guess would you say that it's about accepting the fear and the anxiety and embracing it?
100%. So there's different levels. There's called the acceptance commitment theory. And that's part of being mindful and being understanding that you will be feeling some anxiety and you may be fearful of some situations. And rather than just throw them out the door straight away, it's putting them on trial. Okay, why am I feeling like this? And there may be some, because it's instinct from when we were cavemen, of fear of people who are going to take, our food or ourselves. So we do react in certain ways, and it's understanding these thoughts and feelings, then understanding how we react, and does that align next to our character and our values and what we believe in. And I think this takes time, and we're in a real good time now where we have got this opportunity to work on ourselves to be as mentally fit as we can.
Yes. No, because I found that I hit a bit of a brick wall on Saturday where even myself, I felt a bit down. But if I go back as long as I can remember, I've always been in that uncomfortable lane. I've always been the person that was used to being the outsider, whether it's being an only child, whether it's growing up with my grandparents, with all of those things, I always felt that I was a little bit on the outside. So that uncomfortable area is actually my normal zone. So I although I know times is difficult at the moment, I kind of think it's no different than my normal day of life, because in my normal day of life, I'm constantly pushing, adapting, challenging myself. This is the first time that I'm kind of in quite a long time that I'm being challenged and I'm not having to challenge myself. I think that's where one of our first conversations kicked in, that when we were introduced, you found out that I wanted to do the Great Wall of China Marathon, which is now cancelled, but I've signed up now to the Polar Marathon in the Arctic Circle in October. So if I'm not challenging myself and constantly pushing myself, then I feel like I'm kind of missing out. So now it's like a double hit. The world's challenging me, but yet I'm still trying to keep that challenge.
That's a great way to look at it, and I think that's where some people are able to pick this up more naturally, and that can be through your own, your own upbringing, and being able to have role models, and be able to get positive signaling of what good character is, and being optimistic and working hard and giving back to others. And then others are obviously, everyone's starting off at different levels. But the likes of yourself, it's kind of, as I said before, reactions are key, and how we frame things and what language that we use is also really important. And I think one of the reactions from yourself, which I was really impressed with, is when we hit this situation, and the NHS and the issues that we had around then, and then your first instinct then was to see how you can help. So when you set up the hotels and the accommodation to support the NHS, you know, it's actions like that, where reactions like that, which actually want to be remembered. What is our legacy?
Well, that simple NHS, well, simple. That moment, I didn't hesitate. I'll tell you, and I remember the story that my grandmother told me. So my grandmother just passed away. My grandfather just passed away. He was 67. And bear in mind, a farmer or any Irish person those days, he'd never had a day off since he left school at the age of 12. So he'd worked 55 years of his life without a day off until the day he died. And my grandmother and grandfather just got married. And one evening they were having dinner and they heard one of the house had down. Now, my granddad just got a new job and he was actually getting paid weekly by food because there was no money. Really difficult times. And he said to my grandmother, he says, Lily, he said, I'm going to have to quit my job. I have to go and help the family rebuild their house. So he quit his job, which was only for food for the family. And word spread quickly, and all of the community jumped in together, and they rehoused the children, and they rebuilt the family house for them people. They did that for nothing. So I remember whenever we were looking at, I was in a bit of a situation with having empty properties, and instantly my instincts kicked in, and that story, along with many other stories which I have, that story reminded me the best thing I can do is look after those on the front line, or look after the ones that are vulnerable. And it was just a natural process to want to go back to what I know best.
Yeah, it's brilliant here, and this is where the storytelling of what do we want to be, what's our legacy when we finish, but stories like this that date back to our childhood, which are universal and timeless. And hopefully these stories will be getting told for generations and generations.
Absolutely.
It always translate to modern day.
Do you know, I guess that this would be great advice for so many people out there, especially the people that are in their early 30s or in their 20s. They would never have seen a recession yet. So they're not used to a slap on the mouth as such, where things can be lost or businesses can be lost overnight. But I find I always have a plan. I have a 1-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and 50-year plan. And I just want to relate this back to probably your athletes, because at the moment my 1-year plan of where I want to be is on hold now. I'm maybe not going to be realized for 2020. The 5-year plan will always supersede the 1-year plan. The 10-year plan will supersede, and ultimately I've got a 50-year plan. I know no matter what happens in the short term, my long-term plan will always trump. Do you have a contingency for athletes that get injured or something unforeseen happens that they may miss out? For example, the next competition or championship they're missing out on. Do you have always a longer term plan of how to counteract the short term downside?
Yeah, real simple saying and philosophy is I got from one of my first mentors, and he talked about goals, and he always said about having goals which are longer term, and then you have to make in-flight adjustments along the way. Just capturing that really simple resonated a huge amount with athletes, because the athletes I work with, a lot of them are objectively driven. So they have to make this jump to get into this competition, to get this timing, to get into the next trials, to make the next this, and everything is followed on, and they train, and their program is periodized, and a lot of it is time, always managing in regards to meeting expectations and to get to the next competition. So mentally, then, if you don't reach that first milestone, we are reinforcing negativity. We are reinforcing failure. So my job as the head of performance to sit back, and while they are driven and while the coaches is working towards things, it's also my job to actually sit back to see that, they need to make in-flight adjustments along the way. If there's big waves, we need to understand then how to learn to surf. So there's for sure those short-term goals are really, really important. Make sure that they're not lost. We're not lost within the bigger picture of these things.
On the education side of things, because we have so much in common when it comes to our drive and determination and our mentoring and how we look after people. But there's one thing that's we do have. We've come at a different angle to reach the same point, is education. Because I left school at 14 and I've self-educated myself purely through the people I've surrounded myself over the years. I am grateful for the fact that I am very good at was very good at maths and English as a child. I think that followed me through. So I have a basis of an education, but I never fitted into the exact structure of the education side of things, because there's it's all up in the air at the moment. Anyone that is, for example, in business or in full-time work at the moment and are used to a structure, I'm saying to them, because I'm used to a structure, this is the time. If you ever wanted to reinvent yourself now, there's some college students, university students that are used to having their structure. And if there's ever a time to reinvent yourself and get out of the structure and make it yourself without relying on the facilities just of school and just of your lecturers, this is the time. So I guess the thing I'm saying is that although education is a very valid part of it all, is there any guidance outside the school, or any guidance of what other people are doing at university now, or that they've been helping? Have the schools been given other ways as well, or just through their lectures?
Yeah, I think to take your point, when we talk about education with our athletes when we're looking to recruit them, I always say at the start, this is not a sales pitch. You have to have that thirst for knowledge. You have to have that thirst for the subject in order to develop in that academic field. And we work with dual career. So these guys are training full-time athletes and they're full-time academics. Some go on part-time, different stages, but in general, it's full-time. So it is hard. It is really hard, and it's not for everyone. And I think, we can look over time about different people who have been successful within their industries and education. Everyone takes different routes. And I think even though I'm based in education, I am also very mindful of people, from junior schools to primary schools to senior schools, being taught how to pass exams. And if everyone then goes through the same process, then we are creating very similar people and more robotic people. So we need disruptors, we need creative people, we need people to have that space. But the issues that we have is that everything has got to be measured, everything has got to be objective. So if you pass this exam, if you're good at writing or whichever it may be, or a good memory, then suddenly you're good at that subject area. And what we try and do at the university, and with the group of athletes that we work with, we try and work on character. So character for me, like we said at the start, is really important. Your character traits have allowed you to develop within your industry and to thrive and to flourish as a person and as a businessman. Now, while education could have offered some opportunities to you, you've gone through a different path. But I also believe if you'd have gone through the educational path, knowing who you are, you still probably would have ended up at the same bit. But each path we take, you know, we need to be fluid enough to be able to overcome challenges, overcome adversity, and learn and be curious and take each opportunity optimistically and be grateful for where to. So those things are more important, like we said about accomplishments on the PERMA model. The final one is that grit and self-discipline is a bigger indicator of academic success than it is having a higher IQ. But that's the same within business, and I'm sure within the same within sports as well.
I often say, I repeat and repeat to people, I'll never give up. So that means that I can never fail.
Yeah.
And I guess, but and often I have repeated the same, that if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing slowly. Because you find that if people join my group of companies, whatever field it is, or whatever field they're experts in, they want to be the Usain Bolt. They want to sprint into the office, and you find that within several weeks or months, they run out of energy, or they'll collapse. And in this current climate, you find that there's a lot of people trying to sprint, to evolve, to adapt to their current situation. But at the moment, the current situation is changing on a daily basis. We're adapting to rules of a virus that we don't know how long will last. We're adapting to rules from government that we don't actually have the exact stipulations of how to even cope, or how to sort of accept those rules, and then we're adapting to the rules of our own colleagues, our own businesses. So it's as if we're scrambling to make sense and adapt, but we don't know what we're actually adapting to and how long for. And if we do adapt, do we adapt not to return to what we were like before? Or are we a hybrid? Are we a hybrid of Zoom and Skype, or do we go back to our office?
Yeah. These habits are all getting tested. They're all on trial, aren't they? You know, or we're thinking now, we have to adapt. We have to think differently. You know, to go back to what you said about the quick way and the quick answers, is a quote what I always stand by: is there's no place worth going. There's no shortcut to any place worth going.
Exactly.
You know, it's the commitment, and the quote with the commitment is commitment is doing what you were saying you were going to do long after the feeling went.
Is there any concern long term about jobs in your field? Or because I guess the fitness industry is quite buoyant, isn't it? And people that are interested in health and fitness and athletes will still be there. Is there a concern about jobs, or how that's going to affect?
Well, I also run a gym myself as well, and then we have a charity which I'm a trustee of as well through the gym, and it's a different setup at the moment. So the gyms are closed. And when you talk about a longer term approach, when we set up the gym, we set the gym up 10 years ago. So it was always set up around the member. It was set up around the person. So there was no quick fixes. There was no fad diets. Everything was coached. So what we said when we opened the gym was, people have to come 3 times before they join. Everything that we'd done at the start was 100% coaching. So we all came from sport and elite science, but it was set up for the general public. And we didn't want people to come in, they lost in a vacuum, they get shown how to use some kit, and then you know, they take the direct debits, and then that's it, they don't come. So what we done was, at the start, we built up a real strong community, because people were getting a fair price for a really good service. And over this 10 years, we've grown now, we've doubled the size. And now we've got to the stage where our gym is closed. So now when we talk about the longer term, our members now are standing by us. So they're part of, they call it the third place. They have their home, they have their family, they have their work, and then they have us as the gym. And we do a lot of community things and other things. So off the back of it, so there's a social side of it, and we do business the right way, and we look after people the right way. We know everyone's coming in, and we have this real good, positive environment for training. But because of that, because we took those long-term approaches, we're still alive after 10 years, because we put our money back into the business, and we put our money back into developing coaches, we're now at a situation where most gyms, unfortunately, a lot of gyms who don't have that interaction and that engagement and the social side of it are definitely struggling. But we've managed to keep a lot of our members who are still paying for their membership, even though the gym is closed.
You've created a community and a family that are reliant on each other and will continue to be. There's a great statistic that if a doctor spends more than 8 times with its patient, if a doctor spends more than 8 minutes with a patient, they won't sue him if something goes wrong, because they've given that personal touch. They've shown that they care, and they're showing that they're doing all they can to help that person.
Also, as well, we talked about being able to be adaptable, and we've now shifted to more of an online presence. So now our goal within this short term is to be the best online fitness for our members platform that there is in the UK. And we're really fortunate. We have some of the best UK strength and conditioning coaches, which are based out of the gym. We have a guy who's one of the directors. He is England Rugby Union, ex-World, the World Cup coach for S&C, 3 Olympic cycles, Manchester City. He's worked with a lot of top clubs and teams. So these are the guys they're kind of the architects, and they're the ones that are then teaching the coaches, and then the coaches then are creating new online platforms. But we have to be creative. We have to adapt. And it's something that we're actually enjoying. We're actually engaging with the members in different ways. But it's been fun.
Because there's a lot, if you look at it on an economic sense, less than 200 years ago, farming was one of the biggest industries in the 1800s. Then you go to the 1900s, and manufacturing took over a lot of the farming jobs. We're now in the 2000s. And there's so much that's online. So many people are making a living playing online games, which is incredible. Everyone's got, I've now got my own channel. The virus has caused me to get my own channel, so I'd be able to communicate with the likes of the best people in their field like you. Now, the fitness industry, it's obviously through this, a lot of it is going to be done online. Do you see that jobs will change, evolve? Will the best people still be needed in the flesh, or is it too early to tell?
Yeah, I think things will change. I think there will be more of an online presence. It's going to be it will be really interesting how we all recover together with this. And I think those gyms that have done business in the right way, have looked after their members in the right way, hopefully they will get some of that support through the government, and then they will kick back in, and they'll recover together, and we'll be stronger together. And actually, we'll be more thankful and more grateful. We have members that are wanting to see pictures of the gym because they're missing the touch, the feel, and seeing things, because now we're having to do the fitness classes out of people's front rooms and gardens, but people are actually missing that type of interaction.
Yes.
That's still interaction within the gym itself. So while there may be an online presence, it won't take away the physical interactions with people.
Well, there's going to be a big party and a big influx. I guess the members won't be able to get in. They'll all want, on day one, there's going to be a queue outside the door.
No, there is. And the beauty of ours is that we've always been set up where we want people to come to the gym, our members, and we position the price and the service. So our retention rates for the gym are one of the highest in the country, based on what the principles which we adopt. But also as well is that we thrive on big classes. So we know that our gyms are always like 80% full anyway on the membership. So if everyone comes back, we can handle that. We have enough space.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, it is truly unique. What you've got is truly unique. It is that personal touch. When I've always done that. When I started off I started business quite young, at the age of 11. But even when I started my first business, I was able to share, and I guess it was just ingrained in me from a very young age that anything I had, I always tried to give back or share the profits. I realized that I had, at that age, I'd then taken control of my own destiny. I had, at the age of 11, decided that if everyone's poor on the farm, if my mom and dad don't have a lot of money and all the neighbors don't, and they're telling me to go in a certain direction, this is my time to find my own way. And if I'm still relying on my mom and dad, then I have to listen to their advice. But if I'm not relying on my mom and dad, then I don't need to listen to their advice. And that's when I stopped taking money off them. When I was 11 years of age, I became self-sufficient. But if you often look at the history of the Irish people, there's been a war going on for hundreds of years between the Irish and the British. Even before that, the Vikings came from Norway, stole the women and set up home in Iceland. You know, like Iceland is Norwegian Irish ancestry. Then Ireland went through the famine in the mid 1800s. Then obviously there was 2 world wars and there was malnourishment, where Irish people are one of the biggest mass immigration to happen in the world. Of which my great auntie went to America and was never seen again. Then within Northern Ireland, in the later 1900s, the war continued. So we grew up either learning of tough times or still hearing of the tough times. I was very fortunate because the peace process started when I was quite young, so I didn't see as much trouble or as many. There was shootings, there was bombings, but I saw the back end of it. But it's the saying of nature and nurture. Even to this day, it's ingrained in me to make sure that I can find another way. Yeah. In case, them times ever came about again. My mum would still tell me, eat all your dinner, clean your plate. And she'd put a mountain of food. When I go back to the farm now, my dinner is twice the normal size of a dinner, because her answer still is, you're lucky you can eat it. And then she starts a story where my grandmother, my aunts, she always starts, you're very lucky you can eat it. You never know when your next meal is. And it's ingrained in us and ingrained in me especially, to have that hunger.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think what's quite interesting when you were talking about the development then of different wars that we've been in or conflicts, and we're in one at the moment, but we don't know who we're fighting against.
Well, that's it. It's the invisible man we're fighting against, isn't it? And there's a lot of conspiracies out there as well. But I have no doubt that this is one sort of concrete thing that I'm sure is, and especially again for the younger generation, we're going to live to be 100 plus. The average age as I get older, and I get close to my end of my life, will be about 100. This is only going to be less than 1% of my life that there's going to be some type of suffering. Like this moment, I believe, is one of the greatest moments to capture my appreciation more than ever, to capture my gratitude. Like, for God's sake, we've got the internet. I'm able to sit with you now and speak with you like I would on any other normal day.
Yeah.
We've got so much. This is the great. There's going to be a little blip where most of us won't suffer, and yet there's a huge amount of negativity. There's a huge amount of uncertainty but people aren't happy to embrace it. Now, if you're on the front line, I do have empathy for anyone that's on the front line at these times, of why I donated my properties to the NHS, or the vulnerable, or the elderly. You know, that I have no question that I do feel. But even the elderly, they're tough. You know, anyone now that is not in a take out people that are, their health is at risk. But for example, anyone that's in their 70s but is physically in good condition, they're tough. They've seen hard times. Whether they have to isolate themselves for 12 weeks, you know, they've got character. They've got it in their blood to deal with times like this. And I just can't emphasize more that when it all returns back to normal, the restaurants will be full, the bars will be full, there'll be a celebration. But will people still remember to spend time with their family and their loved ones? Will the younger people still go round and knock the doors off the elders in their community? You know, will we actually learn some amazing lessons that can help us evolve and as you said at the start of this conversation, help us give back more than we've ever given before?
Yeah, well, we've definitely got the opportunity to, and this is an opportunity, you know, which has been forced upon us, but there is a lot of positivity to be able to take from that. You know, we've had kids in our street. We live in a little cul-de-sac, and our kids have been involved, and they're posting letters in to neighbours who are older to see if they needed any help, and putting our phone numbers on there. And, you know, they may never have done that otherwise. You know, helping out with, as we said at the start, putting bins out. Real simple things. But hopefully what this will do is it will give people understanding about themselves and their positive emotions, and being mindful of that. So they know that feels good to help others.
Absolutely.
Just that in itself, if we can start to teach, and we talk about homeschooling, you know, these are the things that actually we can start to reinforce, is that other people matter.
Like, for one thing that I talked about for years, and I didn't action until now, I talked about hanging more family photographs on my wall, because I've got albums that for years my grandma, my mom, my dad used to open a photo album, and I now possess those albums. They've been handed down to me, but they've been under my bed or in a cupboard. The rest of my photographs are on my phone. I'm now bringing them photographs to life by having them on my wall and being able to look at something and not bury it away. And I feel that there's so much that we kind of live for the future a lot, where I think we should live for the moment, but use the past to fuel that moment. Yeah. And I've been doing so much reinventing myself as an even more grateful person, as an even more powerful person, just to stick that rocket up my ass and say, right, this is the new, improved, better Sean O'Neill, and wait till you get a bit of that. If you thought it was good before, just wait till this is over and you see what I'm going to deliver then.
It's brilliant. That's exactly what we all need to be doing, you know. Yeah. And I think it's we these times are going to bring different emotions, And I think, as we said at the start, it's accepting those emotions. It's maximizing our time to develop a better you. So when we all recover after this together, we'll all be stronger.
It's like, this isn't a lot. Like, so the financial losses, if you bring what we can learn as lesson as people. So the financial losses, with which some of my businesses will suffer. I don't even see that as a negative. I see it as a time for, it's an exchange. We spend money and we go on holidays. So we exchange money for information or for a new experience. So even at that, so for the people out there that maybe disagree with us so far, if you can do, or they don't feel it, maybe the advice to them is that this is a time for there is never a loss. It's always an exchange. It's a loss if you see it. So I'm exchanging what I would normally do for an exchange for something different, that I guess I would be able to combine the old with the new and have an even bigger, better recipe for the future.
I think relating that back to a quick sport anecdote. I was in one of the boxing gyms in Liverpool, and I've gone to see one of the guys who's going to be coming through, an England boxer. And in the club, one of the coaches had said, this young kid coming through is a real special kid. He's only had a couple of fights, but you can see something in him. So we walked past him. I said, "Oh, how are you getting on? I hear good things. What's your record?" So he said, "Oh, I've had 16 wins and 1 learning." And I said, "Oh, okay, great, well done." So he moves away, and then I said to the coach, "What's the deal there?" And when we spoke about at the start about words matter and how we reframe things, what you were saying, that exchange of learning even through difficult times, is we're paying for this, so you're going to learn from it.
Absolutely.
Him just saying it's not a loss, it's a learning. So that L stands for learning, and that really was a strong point.
No, that's definitely amazing. Just back on for I guess those people listening on this. So I'm going to be doing hopefully I'm going to be doing the Polar Marathon in October, which is it's believed to be the toughest marathon in the world in the harshest conditions. Could you tell us a bit about what JMU is going to do for me? I'm so delighted to even have the opportunity to work with you on this. I guess my audience will see a lot more that's going to happen with us in the future. But could you give us a brief of your facility and how you're going to take someone like me that isn't even a normal marathon runner? I've only ran a half marathon in my whole life. And the idea of this is I want to show that my mind is capable of doing anything. And I want to lead by example. There's no point in telling people that they're capable without actually showing it. So could you tell me and the people that's listening, how are they going to, or what is your facility and your team of experts going to, and how you're going to prepare me for this immense challenge?
Well, hopefully going to give your mind and your body the best chance to get through this and for you to fight another day, as we mentioned. Ultimately, when we start off with any athlete, there'll be a baseline. So they need to understand physically where you are up to, then where are we going to get to, and then what measures we need to take in place to get you there. So John Moores University Sports Science, one of the best schools in the world for sport and exercise science and research. So you're really fortunate that I can see your background there, about a stone's throw away from you. So
exactly, yes.
What will happen? There'll be a different amount of physiological testing. There'll be opportunities to get you in the environmental chambers. So these chambers, which are based within the Tom Riley building in Byron Street, these are real specialized pieces of equipment and space, and the whole building was built in and around this. So they can make it snow, and they can put you in the jungle. So these environmental experts are able to replicate the environments and the climates that you're going to be in, to then be able to then develop you and get you used to these environments, to see how your body reacts. And then you'll have a program that you'll be able to go away, and you'll go away and then come back at certain times, and then we'll just remeasure and retest, see how you've been improving. And then we're going to go through lots of up and downs. We're going to make in-flight adjustments along the way to see everything's going to be in and around yourself. So it's going to be set up a needs analysis just on you and where you want to get to. But we've got to have a starting block, and that's what the initial testing will be in place. There is experts in there who are far cleverer and far brighter than myself. And these are the guys that are at the highest point, within their career, with real good pieces of research to work from. So we are applying everything that we do from research, but also working in and around your needs.
I always say that you must continuously acquire knowledge. Like if you think you have learned, then you haven't, have you? Because you have to. So this is going to be me evolving. You're going to acquire the base knowledge of me, what I am, what my body's capable of, and then you're going to constantly educate me, I guess, to do what you need me to do to get to there.
Yeah, and there's so much of an unknown, because we don't know how your body is going to react to certain measures that we're going to be putting you through, and then we have to change and adapt to give you the best chance to be able to get through this and live to fight another day.
Wow, it's amazing. I really look forward to it. I've been doing my own training at the moment, but I do find that because I'm used to having great people around me, even my coach at CrossFit Liverpool has a extensive knowledge, and we're doing a lot of mobility and strength and mobility together. That because I haven't been able to train how I would train with him, I feel like my fitness, I'm keeping it up, but I'm not able to push that extra bit that I need. So yeah, I guess it's having the best people around me to push me that extra little bit is what I really crave now. So I'm definitely going to embrace it with as much as I can.
And that's what's going to be really interesting for yourself as you're going into a new environment in a new industry where these are working, within the scientific field. So it's going to be really interesting for you, because I know you'll have lots of good questions to understand it. So part of them is being able to then, they're at the highest level of research and science, but they translate that to you, and that's the art of it. That's the art of their coaching, is to be able to translate.
Yeah, so I'll have to bring that down into just positivity, practicality, and my stubbornness to make sure that I can rise to the challenge.
Yeah, and that, the mental side of it obviously plays a huge part in this, and you're arriving this with a strong mentality, but you know that you will be tested. You know that you're going to be uncomfortable for long periods of time. And this is interesting, how we react in the body, and how then that affects how we react in the mind, and how that affects the body.
What about physical challenges yourself? People can't really see, but believe me, David's in very good shape. He's a lean, mean machine. And so the condition you've got in, is that just years and years of training, or have you yourself been in a position where you've done huge physical challenges or competed at a level?
Yeah, my background was, I was a failed footballer. So I've been released from clubs, and then I went over to America and played over there. So I'd done a scholarship over there, and I played and I coached. And then I came back to Liverpool, and then I was quite fortunate. I got the role at the university, and it's quite interesting, really. I'm now 40, and I'm probably in just as good a shape as I am now than I was when I was 20, if not better, because playing sport specific every day, recovering from injuries, I wasn't able to work on other areas of training. But what I've really found is that I love a mixture of training. So I love the cardio side of it. I love the physical, the training, the strength side of it. I love the group classes. I do like little challenges here and there for time, for maybe some runs. But unfortunately, because of my sporting background, I do have I've had a reconstruction on my knee, an ACL. I've had a triple fracture on my ankle, so I'm limited to some of those longer distances. But the sharp stuff is what I enjoy. Some of the guys at the gym, some of the friends who I went to school with, who I run the gym with, our goal was to try and run 40 minutes for 10K before we were 40. And two of the guys have done it, and two of the guys have still got to do it. So that's the challenge. Even though we're not runners, that was the initial challenge that we've set up. But I do always, I really like listening to people's stories. The likes of people like yourself who come in, who are not specific athletes, and may not have had big training sport and backgrounds, but want to challenge themselves in a new area. And that really does fascinate me from a physical point of view, of translating a lot of that mentality that we have with our athletes with some of the general public. And these guys are normally people who are leading in business or leading within their industries, is that they're looking for new challenges to challenge themselves. So it is always fascinating for me, and that was one of the reasons when I heard you were coming in, I wanted to engage and listen to your story.
Well, I guess nobody. Well, 99.999% of people have never made it unless there is hard work and commitment. Yeah. Even the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world, he's had failed attempts before he made it at Facebook. And how many days that he had off in this past 15 years? Nobody thinks about that. I think also, one of my key strengths is that I like to stay a little bit stupid. The reason I say that is because I've never started a business or a challenge ever over analyzing the situation. Because if you're trying to make the perfect plan, you would never ever start. I started this challenge to run the hardest marathon in the world by basically saying, I'm going to do it. I didn't think for 1 minute how I'm going to do it, but I knew if I do it and I move forward. So I'm coming into this completely ignorant of how to do it. I've just found the best people, yourself, my running coach, my CrossFit coach. I found the best people that I know can help me through that. It's like an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur never knows how he's going to do it. He just does it. And after he does it, he makes so many errors along the way. I just have to try and be a bit clever with my training, that I don't overtrain to burn out, to lose a few days. And I guess that's where you're going to excel and give me the correct guidelines to be able to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think sometimes knowing too much can hinder your progression. And that's why, I did say it does always interest me, the people like yourself that go on these challenges, and having that entrepreneurial spirit to actually try these new things and not really understand exactly how they're going to get there, but they understand the process and the character traits that they're going to implement in order to try and get there. That's more of the focus. And I think from a personal point of view, I do think that that's what I'm not so good at. I sometimes do need to know, or like to know exactly what the outcomes are going to be, and if I've got a real good chance of actually doing it. So this is part of it where I know some of my flaws, and what that is one of them.
I'll give you a quick example of another challenge that I did a few weeks ago. Was do you know I went live on stage at a stand-up comedy gig?
You did tell me you were going, but you didn't tell me how it went. Yeah.
So talk about a mental challenge that was. So I did a 3-week crash course on stand-up comedy. And for anyone that knows me, I'm not even fucking funny. I'm more of a serious person than I am actually a funny person. So I had thought about this for about a year, and about 2 months into it, so 10 months ago, I applied. And due to my busy schedule, I was out of the country at the time. Then I reapplied again and I was out of the country. But I forgot about it a few months. And 3 months ago, I decided to look into it again. And when I looked into it, they said, oh, yes, thank you. There's an availability at the Hot Water Comedy Club to start next week. I'm not joking. My stomach nearly turned. I looked at my diary and I was free. So instantly I got one of my team that looks after me. I said, sent her the details and said, please book that for me. I was nervous. I talk about me being a brave, macho, kind of person that believes that I was breaking it. Anyway, we had 1 Sunday, 2 Sunday, 3 Sunday practice, and then on stage in front of 250 people. The first Sunday, I came out of there thinking, how the hell am I ever going to do this? I just was, I knew I could. I had no idea how. This was the biggest challenge that I ever had, more than any business, because any business I knew a little bit. And I kind of ignored it the first week. And on the Saturday before the Sunday, I the first time in a long time, I looked at a bit of comedy, wrote a few jokes, and went there the next day, stood on stage and couldn't repeat one of them. Anyway, I thought, right, Sean, this is a challenge, and you better rise to the challenge, because after this, there's another story I can bring to my team, bring to the public now. And I spent the next 2 weeks understanding the science of comedy, trying to figure out how to put it together. And I went live on stage in front of 250 people in the Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool, and I nailed it.
Ah, brilliant.
Now, I was nervous, and it was probably the most nervous I've been in nearly all my life. It was a huge challenge, but it worked, and I instantly got the bug. I was invited to do another gig the week after. Unfortunately, I was traveling to South Africa, but I'll be back, and it's an incredible. So the mental side of it, obviously. Now as for physical, I will. I guess the physical side is also a mental side with this for me, isn't it? Yeah. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the physical side plays out and what toll it takes on my mental side, because it's going to be both physical and mental at the same time.
Yeah, and because you're going to be out training for many hours at a time.
Yes.
How you're keeping your mind active as well, which is going to be really, really interesting. And the physical side of it is, it'll be a mixture of being able to make sure that your body is robust enough to be able to deal with what the event itself, and then obviously working physiologically your lungs and your heart to be able to adapt to these longer stretches. But it's going to be really exciting. You're going to learn a lot along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant.
All right, David. That was an amazing chat. I loved every minute of it, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person sooner rather than later. Yeah. And we'll get the show on the road physically.
Yeah. We'll get you moving. But as always, it's great to talk to you, Sean.
Yes, absolutely. Been really, really great, and we'll catch up soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sean.